All right, today we're jumping into a story that has absolutely rocked the highest levels of power. A story that peeled back the curtain on a really dark world of wealth and influence. We are unpacking the Epstein Files. So picture this, it's 1998 and a private island in the US Virgin Islands called Little St. James gets bought. I mean, to the rest of the world, this place looked like actual paradise. Incredible beaches, a massive luxury mansion. But the people who lived nearby, they had a different name for it. They called it Pedophile Island. And that's where this whole insane story really begins.
I mean, the sheer scale of what was happening on the 75-acre island is just staggering. It was set up like a five-star resort, complete with guest villas, pools, a helipad, all designed to entertain some of the most powerful people on the planet. We're talking everyone from Prince Andrew to the scientist Stephen Hawking. But underneath all that luxury, its real purpose was horrifying. The trafficking and abuse of girls, some as young as 12, who were basically trapped there with absolutely no way to escape.
So who's the man at the center of this web? Jeffrey Epstein. And his backstory? It's kind of wild. He started out as a math teacher, but somehow he clawed his way into the world of high finance, becoming an advisor to billionaires. He ended up with a fortune of over $600 million and built this incredible network of friends that included powerful people like former presidents Bill Clinton and Donald Trump.
So you have to be asking, how in the world did he get away with this for so long? Let's break down the actual mechanics of his horrific scheme, which really started to come apart because of one single police complaint way back in 2005.
What the police found wasn't just random abuse. It was a cold, calculated pyramid scheme. It would start by luring a vulnerable girl with a promise of $200 for a massage. After Epstein abused her, he'd then offer her more money to bring in her friends. It was this horrific system where each victim was tragically turned into a recruiter, creating this never-ending, expanding chain of abuse.
And we have to remember, these weren't just abstract numbers. These were real girls, often from poor families. Some were even orphans. This quote from one of the victims, it just shows you how desperate their situations were. It made them such easy targets for this kind of monstrous exploitation.
Okay, so with a scheme this organized and victims who were willing to testify, the evidence was just overwhelming. So how did Epstein basically walk away? This is where the story gets even darker, shifting from the crimes to the powerful system that was protecting him.
So that local police complaint? It triggered a federal investigation. The FBI launched what they called Operation Leap Year, and what they found was absolutely damning. They put together a detailed 53-page report against Epstein. And within those 53 pages, they had officially identified at least 36 minor victims with these harrowing statements from girls all across the country. So you have this mountain of evidence, dozens of victims, and the results of all of it? A sentence of just 18 months. So the huge question is, how is that even possible?
Well, it was possible because of a secret plea deal. A federal attorney, a guy named Alexander Acosta, cut a deal with Epstein's lawyers that gave him and all his co-conspirators immunity from all federal charges. And the most shocking part? This deal was sealed and illegally hidden from the victims themselves. They had no idea. Now look at this timeline, because this is where things get really, really political. In 2008, Acosta gives Epstein this unbelievable sweetheart deal. Fast forward almost a decade to 2017, and that same man gets appointed to a cabinet position as Secretary of Labor by President Donald Trump, who, you'll remember, was a longtime friend of Epstein's.
For years, Epstein was a free man. I mean, the story should have ended right there, with the bad guy getting away with it. But it didn't, and that's all thanks to the relentless work of one incredible journalist. An investigative journalist for the Miami Herald, Julie K. Brown, just refused to let this story die. She spent years digging, and in 2018, she published this bombshell series called Perversion of Justice. It laid bare not just Epstein's crimes, but the entire cover-up. Brown's reporting created an absolute firestorm of public outrage. I mean, people were furious. The pressure got so intense that federal prosecutors in New York basically had no choice but to reopen the case. And in July 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested again, this time on charges that could have sent him to prison for 45 years. It finally seemed like justice was about to be served, but then the story took its most bizarre, most controversial turn yet. Seriously, you can't make this stuff up. On August 10, 2019, Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. The official cause of death was ruled a suicide, but the circumstances were, let's just say, incredibly suspicious. He was alone in his cell, and, what a coincidence, the surveillance cameras right outside his cell just happened to not be working that night.
This, of course, fueled massive conspiracy theories, and that phrase, Epstein didn't kill himself, went viral, pushed by everyone, including figures like Donald Trump himself.
With Epstein's death, his secrets could have easily died with him. But the fight for the truth just shifted to a new battleground, the fight to get his files released.
The public demand to see these files became a huge political issue. For example, leading up to an election, Donald Trump was asked straight up if he would declassify the Epstein files, and his answer to his supporters was a very clear yes. Yes, I would. But then, after the election, his tune changed completely. Those same files he promised to release were suddenly just a boring Democrat hoax. You know, that kind of dramatic reversal from a major political figure only made the public even more suspicious about what could possibly be hidden in those files. Eventually, under all this pressure, some of the files were released, and what they contained was explosive. The names of so many powerful people showed up: political leaders, business titans, celebrities. As you can see here, for example, documents showed Donald Trump's frequent travel on Epstein's private jet, and even included testimony that alleged he knew about the abuse. But he was far from the only one. Names like Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew also featured heavily in witness accounts.
But here's the catch. Even though some documents are out there, they are heavily redacted. We're talking huge black lines covering up key names, dates, entire paragraphs, hiding the most crucial information from all of us.
And what we've seen is just the tip of the iceberg. It's estimated that over 1 million documents related to the Epstein case are still completely sealed, totally hidden from public view. 1 million.
And that brings us to the final, really haunting question that's still hanging over all of this. With more than 1 million documents still under lock and key, what other truths are just waiting to be exposed? And maybe more importantly, whose powerful names are still being protected in the dark?